So the laser cutter, hopefully you're all familiar with this, but the laser cutter is a really good machine at cutting highly accurate, very complex shapes relatively quickly. It will cut woods and plastics incredibly well, and you can get a lovely surface finish left on it. And it can do things like it can engrave, so it can engrave patterns almost like a tattoo onto the material, and it can also cut all the way through as well. Now, the disadvantage of laser cutting is because it's hot, it uses an incredibly high temperature to literally just dissolve the material to make the cut, is you do get burn marks left on timber here. So this poor old elephant has literally burn marks all the way around, and the thicker the material, the more burning there is because the laser has to move slower to be able to get around it. So that's the problem with laser cutting, is that there is a limit as to how thick you can cut materials on there. You can see on here though, if you're cutting like acrylic, say transparent acrylic, you can get a really nice surface finish on the edges there. Especially when it's on its highest setting, that's on its highest quality setting, you can get a really nice edge. But yeah, there is a limit to how thick these things can cut, and I'd say about 10 millimeters is about the limit of how thick a material you can cut, and you can only really cut. On school machines, you can only really cut woods and plastics. Metals definitely can't. Industrial laser cutters can, but we're not legally allowed to have those in school because they're too powerful. So yeah, and they're dangerous. And the other downside is you can't just chuck any material in here. What happens with that is, if you do that, you end up getting some toxic fumes coming off, or if you don't know how the material will react to the heat, you can end up getting with some materials like cyanide gas coming off. So that means that you need an extractor here to suck out all the fumes and to clean them, and then and you need like a gas cylinder in there as well to pump gas into the laser cutter so it blows away the material that it cuts. So it's a fairly well, it's actually surprisingly complex to get it working. So these things need servicing, and the laser head itself has to be cleaned as well. That's the laser head in there. And yeah, that has to be cleaned every now and then because it gets blocked up by all the soot and sort of fumes that come off the material.